Hi everyone, I'm Terry Keener, and I'm the Behavioral Health Coordinator for the 1 October Project. And we're here at the Vegas Strong Resiliency Center to offer you some ideas for getting through the holidays. We know that this time of year can be stressful for anyone, but it can be particularly stressful for those who have experienced any kind of traumatic event, grief, loss, and the things that you might be experiencing. So no matter what you celebrate this time of year, or even if you celebrate, you may be experiencing some emotions that are uncomfortable. You may have some grief. You may be feeling somewhat nostalgic. It doesn't matter, whatever you're feeling is okay, but it may be difficult this time of year. So we just want to take a few minutes to offer some ideas, and we hope that you find something in it that is helpful for you.
My name is Alyssa Meyer, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm one of the clinical supervisors at Hope Counseling Services.
And my name is Robin Hostetler. I'm also a clinical supervisor at Hope Counseling.
What are some of the things that someone might expect during this time of year related to traumatic grief?
So those who've experienced a traumatic event may experience a variety of different emotions. They may be confused, they may have sadness, may be experiencing confusion about the event, and all of those things are normal. It's important to remind yourself that not one person will experience a traumatic event in the same way as someone sitting next to them even. And so being able to give yourself a little bit of that space to grieve in your own way is really helpful.
This time of year, or any time there's a holiday around, people are going to visit with each other, and you know that people want to experience the holiday in their way. Everybody's different, everybody's unique, and so when there's a traumatic event involved in their life, they're going to experience that traumatic event differently also. So some people may want to be around other people, some people may not want to be around other people, and that's okay. Now, as a person who wants to reach out to others, if you know that person personally, you'll know if they want to be alone or not more easily. But if you don't know them, sometimes it's you approach that person more timidly, that's all. You might just say something simple like, this time of year can be hard for me. I'm wondering how it's been for you. You might just say, I'm sorry. You might just say something like, I'm sorry for your loss. How can I help? I would love to be there for you. You can use any of those kind of phrases and offer your help in any way. How can I help you get through this experience? Or maybe just even invite them over. Would you like to go out for a meal or come to my house for a meal? And give them the opportunity to say yes or no. So be open to and listening to what they say to you, and be open to what they have to say and respond accordingly.
Yeah, I think that form of open communication, just recognizing that we can talk about the experiences that we're going through, and we can talk about those loved ones that maybe have passed away or we don't have physically in our presence anymore, is really good for adults and for children to go through. And so supporting that kind of conversation and saying that it's okay for us to talk about these things, even if they bring up really challenging emotions or emotions that might be harder for us to cope with, especially during the holidays when we have a little bit more access to family members, and it's oftentimes more kind of people are coming to your house more, you're going to events a little bit more, and so some people, like Robin was saying, like to recluse and be a little bit more to themselves, whereas others really seek out that. But whatever type of person you are with coping with that is okay, and looking for those resources when they're out there, whether it's a friend that experienced something with you or a family member that knows a little bit about what's going on for you or might be able to support you, could help you cope with that.
I know that one of the things we've talked about repeatedly is that it's okay to feel however you are feeling. Sometimes you might feel like that's that you don't want to be around others during that time because you're afraid that your sadness or your grief might be a dampener on for everyone else.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's probably good to be around others and just let them know. I may not be my usual self, but I want to be here and be with people, even though I still feel sad.
I think it's really good to know yourself. And so thinking back to how did you cope with big situations or big emotions that came up in the past versus how are you doing things now after an event or the loss of a loved one. And so sometimes we look at these 5 different areas of functioning. How were you sleeping before the event? How are you sleeping now? How did you eat before the event? How are you eating now? What's your appetite like? How did you socialize with friends before versus how you're socializing now? And then the other area is love, which is how are you showing connection, deeper level connection to someone, whether it's a loved one, whether it's a significant other, or your child. And then the last area is that physical. So how are you physically caring for yourself? Like, are you a runner before and now you're never running again? Did you go to the gym a lot before and now you never did?
That's
or the flip
huge.
side of that,
Yeah.
did you never go to the gym before and now you're really working out a lot, right? And so once we kind of determine what kind of change has been for you, why you've been experiencing this, helps us get you back to where you were functioning before that event or that experience. And that might give us a little bit of understanding too as to, what it is and where it is that you want to see change. Sometimes that change could be a healthy form of change, and sometimes that change could feel unhealthy in some way. And that's kind of where we would look at wanting to identify that for yourself and then making some efforts to change that back to your base level of functioning.
Some really great points there, and I think if you look at how we are all so different, just us sitting here in this room, we're all very different. Everybody's different, and we're going to experience life differently. And you have to take all those things that you just talked about and self-reflect, and sometimes that's hard to do when you're hurting. So you might reach out to a therapist or somebody like you when you're coming here and to try to talk through some of that. But don't be afraid to be alone for a little bit to think through, maybe journal a little bit and figure out some of those things first. And but that each person then might say maybe they are the outgoing person. Maybe they would find the old friends that they had, and sometimes those friends, I'm sure at first they're all going to say, "Yeah, I'm sorry, I feel bad for you. Let me help you." But after some time passes, sometimes they say, "Okay, I'm done. I don't want to hear anymore." Or they might say, "Aren't you ever going to get over this?" They might say, "How long is this going to take you to get over this?" And in your mind, you're probably thinking, "I think I'd be like this too. I don't know how long it's going to take." We don't. Everybody's different, again, as I've said. So I think you have to find people of different parts of your life. Find the ones who are supportive and will listen to the things that you have, the struggles you have, and the thoughts that you have. But then find those that you can just go out and have fun with and kind of break loose. And then others, maybe your other family members or the loved ones that you have real close to you, you can just cry with them. So it takes a variety. It's not just one. It's not one package. You can't put it in a box. You need a variety of people in your life. You need a variety of supports, and I know you can do that. If you feel like you can't, then get some help, like a therapist.
So one of the things that comes up frequently during holidays or when you're bringing people together at the Thanksgiving table is that there's someone who wants to bring up a topic that is not really necessarily comfortable for everyone else at the table.
It happens.
What are some of your ideas for responding to that?
Yeah. One of my big things that I typically will say to someone is come up with something that's comfortable for you to say in a response. So if you were at the October 1 shooting and it's not a conversation that you really want to go into, come up with something that feels comfortable and safe for you. It might be a sentence. It might be a couple of sentences that you've practiced and you can rattle off with comfort. That kind of shuts the conversation down. So it gives that person a response. So you're responding to what they're sharing, but you're responding in a way that you still feel safe and comfortable sharing.
And I think also what might help is to come up with an inner mantra, something that you say to yourself. when they're doing when they're saying what they're saying, you might just say, I can get through this, I can get through this, I can get through this. Or if this is only an hour, I can do anything for an hour, I can do anything for an hour. And I got to remember, I love my aunt, I love my aunt. So it could be any of those kind of comments. But you're doing positive self-talk to yourself. Instead of going, oh my gosh, I can't believe she's saying that to me, I don't want to talk about that now, whatever. So do the positive thing. I love my aunt, I love my aunt.
Well, and it is important to have something that you're comfortable with. I know that one of mine, and not everyone's comfortable saying something like this, but is to say, that's a really interesting perspective. Thank you for sharing that.
It's a great comment.
I would like to move on to a different topic, or I will give that some thought, and here's what my ideas are. But to somehow, kind of validate it and acknowledge it, but then move on to something else.
That's great. Those are good ones.
Yeah, even just being able to say, I would really like to focus on other things at this time, and give them some examples. I'd really like to focus on, oh my gosh, all this really good food, or I'd really like to focus on just spending time with you, right?
Or maybe that person wants to talk about it, but the rest of the family doesn't, and you would like to connect. So you might say, hey, can we talk about that a little bit later? Or let's go for a walk, because maybe not everyone is comfortable, but maybe you found someone who is comfortable because they've asked the question.
Another thing you could do in preparing for that event, and you're going to be with some people that are going to, you could prepare yourself with take a game to play. Or take something. There's a game out there called the Ungame. It has little cards of things that you can talk about. So you can take something with you to do.
That promotes conversation.
That promotes conversation.
Yeah.
If I'm going with kids, I take Play-Doh. I love to take Play-Doh. We play Play-Doh together. And you can, so just think of things that you can take to make it a little easier, that maybe makes you more comfortable. For some people, it's just taking their knitting, so you can sit and knit, and that calms you.
You may also just excuse yourself. Thank you for sharing that perspective. That's very interesting. I'm going to give that some thought. Excuse me, I'm going to take a walk, or I'll be back in 10 minutes.
Sure.
It's okay to take a personal break.
It is.
Yeah. Giving yourself permission for that kind of step out, that moment to get yourself back together, or to experience how you're experiencing that.
We know that people sometimes need some time to themselves, but at the same time, it's important to stay connected and be connected. So we hope that you will stay connected in some way through the holiday season. And we are here at the center to support you and offer any assistance that we can. We have providers in the community here in Las Vegas, but we also know that you may not be here local, and there are many resources available to you. We can help you find them, or someone in your community can help you. Yeah, and maybe you have some ideas you want to share on our Facebook page or with each other.
Help us continue the conversation and have a happy holiday.